Economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
In today's top stories, on Algeria's National Diplomacy Day, the Foreign Affairs Minister, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, said that the event reflects the pride that Algerian diplomacy represents for the country. The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas has announced that it had reached an agreement providing for an end to the aggression of the Gaza Strip, the withdrawal of Zionist occupation forces, the entry of humanitarian aid, and the exchange of prisoners. The Sahrawi Wilaya of Samarra hosts celebrations commemorating the 50th anniversary of Proclamation of Sahrawi Republic, which comes at a time when there is a consensus on the legitimate right of the Sahrawi people to self-determination. Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Silmani. The President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has paid a visit to the headquarters of the Ministry of National Defense here in the capital, Algiers. President Abdelmajid Tebboune has received a phone call from his Egyptian counterpart, the President of Egypt, Mr. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, with whom he exchanged views on the situation in their respective regions and its repercussions on the two brotherly peoples. Mohamed Khatel has more.
A statement from the Presidency of the Republic said that the two presidents discussed the deeply rooted bilateral relations instilled in the national memory by the outstanding struggle of the two peoples, the two states, and the two leaders in the service of the Arab and Muslim nation, adding that the two parties agreed to intensify these relations and extend them to all levels of cooperation. The two presidents also agreed on holding as soon as possible the next session of the Algerian-Egyptian Grand Joint Commission and scheduling mutual visits at the highest level to consolidate the values of struggle and serve common interests. On this occasion, the President of the Republic congratulated the Egyptian President on the election of Egypt, a sister country, to chair the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO. Welcoming this victory, which he said was intended to be a renewed recognition of Egypt as a great state with a 1,000-year-old culture, the President of the Republic assured that the Egyptian presidency of this UN organization will benefit the entire international community.
Now, as you followed in our top stories, the Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, has presided over the ceremony marking Algeria's National Diplomacy Day, coinciding this year with the 80th anniversary of the creation of the United Nations Organization. After conveying the greetings of the President of the Republic, Mr. Tebboune, on the occasion of this double celebration, Mr. Attaf highlighted in his address that the event reflects the pride that Algerian diplomacy represents for our country and the pride that the UN organization inspires for humanity, adding that Algeria and the United Nations maintain deep-rooted, privileged, and exceptional relations dating back to the recognition of the cause of Algerian liberation and its inclusion on the agenda of the UN General Assembly on September 30th, 1955, as the first issue of decolonization, which at the time was a real procedural and legal precedent.
The relationship between Algeria and the United Nations is first and foremost a deeply rooted one. Its foundations go back to when the organization embraced the Algerian liberation cause and placed it on the agenda of the General Assembly on September 30th, 1955 as the first decolonization issue. Indeed, the Algerian liberation cause was the very first decolonization issue to be directly included in the agenda of the UN General Assembly. Today, as we celebrate the 70th anniversary of this historic milestone, coinciding with the 80th anniversary of the creation of the United Nations, we, as Algerians, do not forget.
The Algerian foreign minister warned against marginalizing the United Nations, stressing that the challenges it faces are not tied to the global public good, but to attempts to weaken its role in serving humanity.
It afflicts us to see the principles of the UN Charter trampled upon, the principles which were established to serve as a beacon of justice and peace among nations. It also afflicts us that the international law is violated and belittled, despite being the supreme guarantor for peaceful, civilized and strong coexistence among nations. Algeria firmly believes that the current state of confusion and disorientation that the world is experiencing can only be overcome by restoring the value of this universal beacon.
Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf stressed that Algeria has dedicated its UN Security Council term to advocate for just causes, foremost among which are the Palestinian and Sahrawi causes.
Today, as we stand on the threshold of concluding this mandate, we believe with full faith and sincerity that we have spared no effort in fulfilling the responsibility entrusted to us by the member states of the UN General Assembly. Our source of pride lies in the acknowledgement by the majority of sister, friendly and partner nations that Algeria has truly been a steadfast supporter of truth in the face of its denial, a defender of freedom in the face of oppression, and a defender of justice in the face of injustice. Today, amid the tragedies befalling Palestine, the international community is turning toward the path that was established here on Algerian soil in order to ensure justice for the proud Palestinian people and enable them to exercise their legal and legitimate rights. In Western Sahara, Algeria continues to support all United Nations-led efforts aimed at reaching a just, lasting and definitive political solution to this long-standing conflict.
It's worth mentioning that the celebration of Algeria's Diplomacy Day took place in the presence of representatives of several national bodies and institutions, heads of diplomatic missions, representatives of international and regional organizations accredited in Algeria, and executives and officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now, the United Nations resident coordinator in Algeria, Savina Amassari, has stressed that Algeria and the UN share the same ambition to build a world of peace, justice and solidarity. The details in this report with Mohammed Khatil.
During her speech at the celebration of Algerian Diplomacy Day, which coincides with the 80th anniversary of the UN, Ms. Amassari highlighted Algeria's achievements in recent years on various fronts. She emphasized that Algeria has anchored its diplomatic efforts in a vision of peace and solidarity, from the fight against apartheid to supporting national liberation causes, and from the promotion of multilateralism to its active role in regional mediation. Algeria is recognized as a key player in dialogue and cooperation. The UN official indicated that Algeria and the UN are working on solutions that accelerate progress toward the Sustainable Development Goals using cross-sectoral approaches that leverage the diversity and complementarity of the expertise and mandates of the 22 agencies, funds and programs of the United Nations system involved in this cooperation. The UN representative also focused on the role played by Algeria in caring for Sahrawi refugees and its cooperation with the UN on this specific issue.
C'est pourquoi les Nations Unies et l'Algérie continuent à coopérer étroitement.
This is why the United Nations and Algeria continue to cooperate closely to provide support to Sahrawi refugees living in camps not far from Tindouf, despite the colossal financial challenges of this humanitarian operation in the global context of multiplied crises. In this context, I wish to underline the central role that the Algerian government plays in humanitarian aid towards the Sahrawi refugees, and I would like to thank them very sincerely.
Sincèrement.
Ms. Amassari further indicated that Algeria and the United Nations are also working closely to promote regular, orderly and safe migration, which maximizes benefits for countries of origin, transit and destination alike.
Now to the Middle East. The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas has announced that it had reached an agreement providing for an end to the aggression of the Gaza Strip, the withdrawal of Zionist occupation forces, the entry of humanitarian aid, and the exchange of prisoners. In a statement released, the movement stated that this agreement comes after serious and responsible negotiations around U.S. President Donald Trump's proposal to end the genocidal aggression against the Palestinian people. The movement called on the U.S. President to guarantor the guarantor countries of the agreement, as well as the various Arab, Muslim, and international parties, to ensure that the Zionist occupier fully respects the agreed commitments and not allow it to evade their implementation. Hamas also praised the heroic resistance of the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip, Al-Quds, the West Bank, and among the diaspora, stressing that these sacrifices thwarted the Zionist occupier's plan to subjugate and displace the population. It also reaffirmed that the sacrifices of the Palestinian people will not be in vain and that it will remain committed to defending national rights until freedom, independence, and self-determination are achieved. The representative of Hamas in Algeria, Youssef Hamdan, confirmed in his movement that the movement reached a ceasefire agreement and thanked on the occasion all parties and countries which stood with Palestine in its struggle, especially Algeria, which led a diplomatic battle with us in the Security Council, the international community, and all fronts.
نعلن التوصل إلى اتفاق يقضي بإنهاء الحرب على غزة.
We announce having reached an agreement providing for the end of the war on Gaza, the withdrawal of the occupation, the entry of aid, and the exchange of prisoners. We highly appreciate the efforts of our mediating brothers in Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey. We also value the efforts of everyone who sought to stop the war once and for all, and the complete withdrawal of the occupation from the Gaza Strip. We call on President Trump, the guarantor states of the agreement, and the various Arab, Islamic, and international parties to compel the occupation government to implement the full clauses of the agreement and not allow it to evade or procrastinate in implementing what was agreed upon. We thank the efforts of all the countries that stood with us in our struggle and in our battle, especially Algeria, which fought a diplomatic battle with us in the Security Council, the international community, and on all fronts.
والمنتظم الدولي وكافة الجبهات.
That was the representative of the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas in Algeria, Youssef Hamdan. Now, EU Foreign Minister Kaja Kallas has welcomed the announcement of an agreement providing for an end to the Zionist aggression on the Gaza Strip, calling it a major diplomatic achievement. Kallas said on social media that the agreement on the first phase of the Gaza peace process marks a significant breakthrough, stressing that the EU will do everything possible to support its implementation. Now, in the West Bank, families are enduring daily harassment and violence from Israeli settlers as part of a broader policy of ethnic cleansing. In communities around the Masafar Yatta area, homes and infrastructure are being demolished, pushing Palestinians into more and more precarious living conditions. The spokesperson of the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that humanitarian organizations are deeply concerned by the impact of ongoing Israeli operations in the West Bank, including those in refugee camps in the northern areas, as well as the physical attacks by Zionist settlers.
They remain deeply concerned by the impact of the ongoing Israeli operations in the West Bank, including those in refugee camps in the northern areas. Those operations have now entered their 10th months. Tens of thousands of people remain displaced from their homes in Tulkarm, Nur Shams, and Jenin camps. Meanwhile, ahead of the olive harvest season, which represents a key economic and social cultural event for Palestinians, our OCHA colleagues tell us that some farmers in Nablus Salfit and Kalkilia were unable to harvest their crops in the past few days due to physical attacks by Israeli settlers or because their trees were vandalized. In the first 9 months of this year, OCHA has documented more than 1,200 attacks by Israeli settlers across the West Bank, which resulted in Palestinian casualties, damage to properties, or both. This includes damage to more than 17,000 trees and saplings.
That was the spokesperson of the UN Secretary General, Stefan Dujarric. The Sahrawi Wilaya of Samara hosts celebrations commemorating the 50th anniversary of proclamation of Sahrawi Republic. The celebrations featured folkloric displays by participants from various social and political sectors of the Wilaya, as well as performances by school groups and many others, highlighting the image of the Sahrawi state and the progress it has made over 50 years in building its institutions and in the field of human development and the development of the Sahrawi people. The anniversary comes at a time when there is a consensus on the legitimate right of the Sahrawi people to self-determination, as reaffirmed by the United Nations, the European Court of Justice, and the African Union. The ambassador of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic to Algiers, Abdelkader Talib Omar, tells us more about the celebrations.
The city of Samara holds celebrations throughout this month in all locations where Sahrawi people are. This comes at an important time in the development of the issue after 50 years, and at a time when solutions are being discussed and the issue is being studied within the Security Council and the United Nations General Assembly. The Sahrawi people, with all their categories and in all their places, wanted to send through this 50th anniversary a message to the international community and the Security Council that the Sahrawi people are united and uphold the slogan, "We die united and we will not live divided," while affirming that there is no solution except self-determination and the establishment of a Sahrawi state.
This week, in a speech before the Special Political and Decolonization Committee of the United Nations General Assembly, the member of the National Secretariat representative of the Polisario Front at the United Nations and coordinator with MINURSO, Dr. Sidi Mohammed Ammar, emphasized that the Sahrawi people, who have made enormous sacrifices to achieve a just and lasting peace, will never renounce their legitimate rights and will continue to defend their national aspirations for freedom and independence by all legal means.
This month marks 50 years of Morocco's illegal occupation of Western Sahara, which was deplored by the Security Council in 1975 and by the General Assembly in 1979, among other things. It's been 50 years of brutal occupation and oppression, but also 50 years of struggle, resistance, and above all a strong determination by our people to defend our freedom and independence, for which we have paid so dearly. Unable to learn from the past 50 years, Morocco, the occupying state, persists in its misguided belief that it can forcibly impose a fait accompli on our people. It is trying to promote its colonial proposal, which is nothing but a travesty whose aim is to legitimize the illegal occupation of our land. Let's be very clear. There is no peace nor justice under brutal occupation rooted in oppression, tyranny, and terror. It is time to call a spade and act accordingly. Morocco's occupation of Western Sahara is illegal, and it must end immediately. Our people have made tremendous sacrifices for achieving lasting peace. Today, their message to you member states is very clear. We will never give up our inalienable rights, and we will continue to defend our national aspirations for freedom and independence by all legitimate means.
For his part, the representative of Angola has recalled his country's full support with Western Sahara, the last colony of Africa, and the right of the Sahrawi people to self-determination.
Western Sahara remains the only territory that has not yet achieved full self-determination independence and is therefore the African continent's last colony. The resolution of the Western Sahara issue requires the urgent and unconditional implementation of the all-UN General Assembly and Security Council resolution. Angola supports the inalienable rights of the Sahrawi people to self-determination, independence, and sovereignty over their territory and natural resources. In this regard, The administrative power must demonstrate genuine political will to build a common future based on mutual respect, good neighborliness, and cooperation. We appeal to all concerned parties to resume negotiation under the auspices of the UN and African Union without any further delay or preconditions.
Meanwhile, the Sahrawi ambassador and head of the committee in charge of natural resources and legal affairs, Ubi Boushra Bashir, strongly condemned the new trade agreement between the European Union and Morocco, describing it as a flagrant and direct violation of international law and the rulings of the European Union Court of Justice on Western Sahara. Now, French President Emmanuel Macron will name a new prime minister within the next 48 hours, his office said, in the latest effort to find a way out of the worst political crisis of his presidency. The announcement followed 2 days of last-ditch talks with party leaders by outgoing Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu in a bid to break the country's political deadlock after his cabinet lineup, unveiled on Sunday, was rejected by allies and rivals alike. This is Radio Algeria International. Thank you so much for listening.